Bob Iger yesterday addressed a Wall Street Journal front page story from Disney World saying that there was a diminished crowds on a substantial level on July 4th. And Bob Iger Wednesday went on CNBC. He directly addressed that claim, and he said it was a lie, that in reality, the reason why Disney World wasn't that crowded on July 4th, which is typically a peak day, was because of the weather. Now, one of our guys out there, I asked this question. I love the audience that we have. I said, look, I'm not an expert in weather. I don't know what, this was a 10-year low, by the way, of July 4th crowds at Disney World. And I said, okay, I can't imagine that the weather was actually so hot that was the reason why people weren't at Disney World, right? Because usually Disney World trips are planned long in advance. People say, hey, you know what? We're going to go on family vacation to Disney World. People in Orlando might decide whether or not to go based on the weather. But for any of you who have ever been to Disney World with your family, it's typically not a decision that's made in a couple of days in advance. You plan it out long into the future. So one of our listeners went and looked up the data and shared it with me. And he said, hey, Clay, I'll go look. And he sent this to me. He said, here's the last 10 years of July 4th weather data. And I just shared this on Twitter. Maybe in the short form of this, we can put this graphic up. It complies exactly with what I thought would be the case, which is there's virtually no difference in the last 10 years in what the weather was on July 4th, right? The high was 93. There have been in that window 8 of the 10 July 4ths, the high in Orlando on that day has been 90 or above, including as high as 95, multiple days of 93, multiple days of 90. All right, so the high of 93 is about the average high on July 4th in Orlando for the date that just passed. That's a lie. Also, the low is roughly akin to what a typical low is as well, 79 degrees. So the coolest that it's been is 86 for a high, 84 years and years ago, okay? Every day almost, it feels like, has been either thunderstorms or rainy, or partially cloudy, which makes sense for anybody who has ever been to Florida in the summer when there are often pop-up rain showers that impact the humidity and everything else. My point on this is Bob Iger tried to lie to America by saying, the reason we didn't have huge crowds on July 4th, which is typically a monster day for traffic in Walt Disney World, is because the weather was bad. The weather was basically the exact same as it's been on July 4th at Disney World for the last decade. Here is my theory for what is happening. I think woke Disney has caught up now with the theme parks. They've gotten expensive. Lots of parents out there are saying, what in the world is going on with Disney going super woke in all of its programming? I saw this before. I saw it happen at ESPN. Now it's happening at the larger Disney company. And I think parents are deciding, given the cost and given the politics, a lot of people are saying, I'm not going to go to Disney. And people say, well, what's going on at other theme parks? I actually think, first of all, the crowds are not down as much at Universal, but this makes sense that other theme parks would suffer in Orlando based on Disney too, because lots of people go to Orlando and then go to multiple theme parks. And I'll give you an example. I went to Disney World with my boys. I went to Magic Kingdom one day 2 years ago. Or maybe it was last year. I can't remember. Anyway, I had my boys there. We went to Disney World one day. We went to Universal Studios 2 days. And I went to SeaWorld. So we went not only to Disney, but also to Universal and also to SeaWorld. I think a lot of families do that. They don't just go to one branded theme park, particularly as your kids get older. We went to Magic Kingdom. We went to both Universal Studios. And we went to SeaWorld. And so Disney getting woke actually detracts from the attendance everywhere in Orlando because of the reduced amount of people who make those trips. So I think this is a big deal. Bob Iger lied. He just got caught in his lie based on the weather, which is stupid. I think Bob Iger used to be a weatherman. Did he think that no one, maybe he did he think that no one in the media was going to look up when he said, oh, the reason the crowds were down was because it was hot and rainy? That nobody was going to look it up and say, actually, July tends to be hot and rainy in Orlando every year. And now he gets caught in the lie, which I think is further emblematic of the disaster that is the woke Disney universe. So I wanted to share all that. Thanks to our buddy out there who went and did all the research on July 4th over the last 10 years.